During my undergrad college years, for the most part, I had a very good time on campus. I made many strong friendships, but it just never really happened in my dorm. My dorm was the place where I slept, not the place where I lived. My eagerness and enthusiasm to fit in were met with mere politeness. There was a kind of acknowledgement through small talk, but conversations never really progressed. I grew tired of walking into that dorm feeling like such a stranger. I vividly recall walking through the hallways of my dorm on Friday and Saturday nights. I would hear music playing, a crowd of voices, lots of laughter, and the sound of parties behind closed doors. At first, I was surprised I'd never heard about those parties happening. And with time, I started to feel a bit sad about it. Of course, I could have knocked on doors or asked around, but who wants to invite themselves to a party? I wanted to feel wanted. The experience taught me that an invitation is the highest form of compliment. I've thought about my undergrad dorm experience for years, about the power of our mundane interactions with one another, about the difference between being polite and being present, about the difference between tolerance and belonging, about the power and responsibility we all share to make wherever we live, work, and play a more genuinely inclusive experience for all of us. I've realized that invitations were important, but it's only part of it. For more clues, I started to think of times when I did feel a sense of belonging in college. And funny enough, every moment that came to mind had a common denominator. My friend, Bright. Yes, his name is actually Bright, as in bright light. Bright is from Ghana. He immigrated to the US when he was 10 years old and developed a strong interest in history. Maybe that's why he also developed a genuine interest in people, which enables him to live up to his name. Bright is someone who has countless times exemplified behaviors that create belonging. After reflecting on how Bright interacts with people, I've learned 4 major lessons which I want to share with you. With them, I hope we can all make sure that no one in our surroundings ever feels the way I did in my undergrad dorm. I call these lessons the Bright way to foster belonging. Number 1, as I've shared, make invitations. They're the highest form of compliment, but there's more. Number 2, make enthusiastic introductions. Bright never misses the opportunity to introduce people to each other in the most exciting way possible. I was once walking on campus and inadvertently heard someone scream my name. "Hey, JP!" Of course, it was Bright standing about 250 feet away from me. That's almost the length of a football field. He was walking with Jerry and wanted to make sure he introduced us to each other. When he finally reached me, Bright said, "JP, you have to meet Jerry. She's really the coolest person here." He distilled and relayed the best parts of our personalities and accomplishments to each other. He made us feel special. He made us feel appreciated, and he made us feel valued. Bright's glowing introduction led to Jerry and I building a strong friendship, still flourishing today, 9 years later. Number 3, make it a habit to reach out, from those you're closest to those you don't see as often. For example, Bright's roommate was Andy. Andy was much more reserved than Bright, but still, Bright was always the first to remember reaching out to Andy to check in on him and invite him to things. I would hear him say things like, "Hey, Andy, do you want to join us for dinner? Andy, I haven't seen you all day. Is everything all right? You want to come and study with us?" He made a point to notice not only who is present, but also who is absent. Understandably, we may sometimes hesitate on reaching out to certain people for fear of sounding too pushy. But Bright's way is unique because for him, the fear of a friend feeling excluded always supersedes the fear of what others might think of him. Check in on those who may seem extroverted as well. I remember a friend who I thought was doing well, as she was always surrounded by people. After her second year, she transferred schools, and it turns out she was not doing so well. It turns out she did not feel a sense of belonging in her community. I wish I'd reached out. Now I know, now you know. Number 4, when you do reach out, really make time to connect. Bright was affectionately called Uncle Bright by many of our friends because he made time for them. He made it clear he was ready and willing to listen. He stopped what he was doing. He made eye contact, listened when you spoke, did not interrupt, and asked questions. And he didn't do it with just people in his close circle. He did this with everyone. For example, I remember going to one of our dining halls. We're always greeted by John and the kitchen staff. John never failed to shout Bright's name. "Hey, Bright, so good to see you." Because Bright would do the same. "Hey, John, how are you? So good to see you too." You see, Bright was not simply respectful of those who supported us, like library staff, dining hall workers, and maintenance crews. In fact, that should be expected of everyone. What he did differently was actually taking the time to get to know people and have a genuine conversation with everyone he came across. Of course, not everyone is as extroverted as Bright. It can also be taxing to always engage as enthusiastically as he does, especially if it doesn't come second nature to us. The goal here is really to engage in these behaviors as often as we can without depleting ourselves. For example, as an introvert, I found ways to adapt the lessons I've learned from Bright in ways that I can digest. Here's how I apply these principles, and of course, I'm still working on doing better. I consistently look for opportunities to make invitations, and I try to make them personal and intentional. For example, instead of making a general dinner invitation to a large group, I would prefer reaching out to each person individually and let them know I would love it if they could be there. The signal I hope to send is that I appreciate them and would love to share my time, my most valuable asset, with them. I do my best to check in on close friends from time to time and put in an extra effort to reach out to those I've not heard from in a while. And when I do reach out to people, sometimes the interaction can last an hour, or it could be just 5 minutes. What really matters is to be present and intentional. So, whether you're as extroverted as Bright or more introverted like me, remember, make invitations. Make enthusiastic introductions. Make it a habit to reach out, from those you're closest to those you don't see as often. And when you do reach out, really make time to connect. And if you find yourself secluded, with no one expressing belonging behaviors towards you, I encourage you to seek to be the friend you wish you had to others. You'll not only benefit, but others will be grateful to you. Be brave and be bright.